45 minutes. I think that's recording. I've prepared some questions. I hope you don't mind me referring to these. Actually, can I put it closer to you? I mean, one of the things that I'm dealing with is particular traditions in travel writing. And one of the things that I was particularly interested in was certain places which have fascinated British travellers. And one of those, obviously, is the Middle East. And you yourself have given rise to a number of books on Iraq or Mesopotamia with Gavin Young and Gavin Maxwell. And it seems quite intriguing to have these different views of the same area. And I wondered what you thought of Young's and Maxwell's books.
Well, Gavin Young wrote the one, Return to the Marshes,
Right.
which I think is the best book he wrote.
Right.
And it seemed to me that it was interesting and sympathetic, and he was there long enough to have got under the skin of the people.
Right.
So that he had a personal relationship with the
Yeah.
Amara or all the various people, and rather a good description of how they came down to Baghdad and to Basra, and then he'd find them almost sitting on the doorstep.
Right. Right.
And again, he acquired a certain knowledge about the place, because when I found him, he was working in that office in I don't know what you call it, but anyway, dealing with the export of things in Basra, and anxious to get off abroad. And as he said in his book, he wanted to get off to the desert. And then we had a talk, and I said I thought at that particular moment he'd find it very difficult.
Right.
He'd already had several offers to take him wherever he wanted in a car.
Yeah.
He wanted to do it in that sort of, traditional way.
Yeah.
I said, why didn't he come up to the marshes? Well, while I was in the marshes, he didn't get up very much. I mean, he'd get up for the odd, perhaps a week at most, or almost weekends,
Right.
and again. But after I'd left, he was on there for quite a long time.
Right.
And
on his own after you'd gone?
Yes, I mean, he'd go up by then. Now, after all, he spoke Arabic, you see.
Right.
So that was an advantage for him.
Yes, yeah. Do you think that his book is extremely sympathetic, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
He makes no moral judgments of the Arabs. He doesn't sort of preach at all.
No, not at all.
He feels very affectionate.
Yeah.
Do you not think that comes out in his other books?
Which one?
Well, I haven't read them.
Then he wrote another on a sort of guidebook to Iraq.
Yeah.
Which I really don't know.
No.
I think that on the whole, it is what it sets out to be, a guidebook.
Right.
And it lacks the personal interest
Right.
which the first one had.
Right. And what did you feel about Maxwell's book?
Well, I think you could describe Maxwell's book as a very good bit of verbal photography.
Right.
I mean, he couldn't speak the language.
Right.
He never really got on terms with anybody there. He was out 6 weeks, 7 weeks with me.
Right.
He was a passenger.
Yeah.
And his description, I mean, if you wanted to have a sort of picture of what the marshes looked like and that sort of thing, it was very good, I thought.
Yes.
But inevitably it had no depth.
No. Very beautiful descriptions of the physical.
Scenery, yes.
Right. And rather, do you feel there's a rather sort of petulant tone to the book or not?
Yes, there was. I mean, he himself was sort of petulant in a way. I remember I told him, I said before, because our original meeting, he wrote to me here and said, are you going to write, asked me if I was going to write a book on the marshes. And I thought this was some sort of publisher's agent getting in touch with me.
Right.
So I wrote back sort of curtly and said I have no intention of writing a book about the marshes or about anything else.
Right.
Which I hadn't in those days.
No.
And then he rang me up and said, I think you've got me wrong. What I mean is that I think there's a book to be written about the marshes. If you don't want to write it, I'd very much like to, but after all, it's your subject, and I wouldn't want to intrude.
Right.
And then he said, come and have lunch with me at the Guards Club, which I did. And I said, you know, as far as I'm concerned, there's no objection to your going to the marshes and writing a book.
Right.
But I don't think you'll be able to do it, because you can't speak Arabic, and they're, in a sort of sense, a shy and exclusive people.
Yeah.
And if you arrive there with an Arab from Basra, he'll despise the marsh people as being sort of savages.
Yeah.
And you won't get anywhere. And I said, why don't you come along with me? And then he said, no, it would depend on what it's sort of going to cost. And I said, well, I mean, as far as that's concerned, it won't cost you anything. Because, I mean, I don't want you, they're my people, and I look after them, and you just come along with us. And so he said, then I said to him, there is one thing, that if you do come, do bring enough books to read, because you're going to find yourself sort of odd man out.
Right.
And inevitably, I mean, I'll come down there. A lot of them will want to talk to me. It'll be carried on in Arabic, and I'm going to sit and translate everything I say to you.
Yeah.
The other thing is that you may get 40 to 70 people swarming into the house wanting injections, and some circumcision, everything else. And he said, well, of course, I'd be fascinated to help with that. And I said, well, obviously you can't, because, I mean, you can't speak the language.
No.
And if I can't sort of say to you, give him 3 of the yellow pills and tell him this or that, whereas I can to Amara or one of the others.
Right.
But you must, I mean, and he said, well, in any case, I should be so fascinated, I won't want to waste my time reading books.
Right.
Well, then, he did get a bit sort of sulky. One day he was rather particularly sort of unforthcoming, and I said, oh, Gavin, what's wrong with today? And he said, well, no good trying to tell you if you can't already understand it. All I can say is that if I had somebody as my guest in Scotland, I'd expect to take more trouble over him than you do with me.
Right.
And I said, well, this is what I warned you about.
Yeah.
I'm not in a position to look after you.
No.
And then rather towards the end, he was going off a few days later, and he said, well, I haven't got enough photographs of these villages. Will you take me around the village and let me get some photos? And the room was full of people wanting things. And I said, well, let Amara take them. And he said, what the hell the good of that? Because, you know, I can't communicate with him.
Right.
Well, in a case like that, all he had to sort of, I mean, obviously at the end of 6 months you can, 6 weeks you can communicate, I mean, you, as the troops do.
Yes.
But in that sort of way, he made no effort.
Right, right.
And
he comes across in the book as rather sulky.
Yes. And then, in fact, the others, the ones I was with, you see, were very fond of Gavin, rather sort of saying, well, you've gone back to Basra and we hope you won't come back again.
They said that?
Yeah, yes, they didn't, I mean, there was no they had no enthusiasm for him.
For him?
Yes, he never got on any sort of terms with them.
No, no. There's an interesting story of where he's charged by a pig.
Oh, yes.
Is that absolutely accurate?
Yes, I think it is more or less accurate.
Yeah.
He went off to shoot some duckies in the distance, And these pigs are damn dangerous.
Right.
And suddenly a pig got up and came straight at him.
Right.
And I thought, oh God, it's got him. And waited there. So he was armed with a shotgun as a number 6 shot, which wouldn't have been effective.
No.
Well then, for some unaccountable reason from where I was standing, the pig, having got to it about a bit further than that door, turned round and went off like that. Well, what had happened, it had come to a sort of ditch, and that had,
Deviated.
just turned, it came chased as far as the ditch, saw the ditch and turned round. Well then Gavin, all bloody silly things, fired both barrels into his backside with number 6 shot. Well, if there was one thing that was likely to bring the pig round again, that was it.
Right.
And then I forget what I said, but you bloody fool.
Right.
Like that.
Right.
And
do you feel that it was a sympathetic portrait of yourself in the book, or do you feel that he was unfair to you?
no, I mean, I don't know. I didn't sort of really read it. And that.
No.
What I did think was, I mean, I took him on this trip, and he bought a few things with nothing of any consequence. Well, then he wanted this. We got him the baby otter,
Right.
and that died. And then he went off to Basra, and I went up to the marshes and hunted round, found this other otter,
Right.
took it down to Basra and gave it to him.
Right.
And I would have thought that he might have called it after me instead of calling it Maxwellian.
Right, because you found it.
I found it, and I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It would have been a sort of courteous thing to
Well,
do.
that's the traditional thing, isn't it?
Yes, but
to
I mean,
name it
that was
after-
typical Gavin.
Right.
He always rather wanted the limelight.
Right.
I don't want to be unpleasant about him.
No.
But,
I mean, he wasn't a traveller in your vein, was
no,
he?
not at all. He never travelled.
No.
You see, to give him the credit, to sort of say that Gavin was the thing he was very proud of was he was as distinguished a writer as he was a traveller. Well, that was false.
Right.
Because, I mean, he came to the marshes with me.
Right.
And then he went off to Sicily. Well, anybody could wander around Sicily. I mean, that's not travelling.
No.
Then, at a later date, you see, he came. We met him. My mother and I met him in Morocco.
Right.
And I'd done a journey through the High Atlas, with which is not in any of my books, but I mean, I did this journey.
On donkey or?
With mules.
With
I got a
mules.
letter from the, what's his name, the Glawi,
Right.
to sort of pass me, and I was passed on from one Kasbah to the other. And I had a very interesting couple of, I forget anyway,
Yeah.
doing this journey. Well, then I told Gavin about this, and he was out in them there, and he said, oh, we'd go off and do the same. And so we saw him off from Marrakesh. And I remember my mother waving to him and saying, had a marvellous time. And then, I think the next evening he was back again. And we said, oh, Gavin, what's gone wrong? And he said, well, I couldn't see any way of getting donkeys or mules or something.
No.
Well, if you travel that sort of way, it may take you a week or 10 days to collect your transport.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sort of saying that as a traveller, he was negligible,
Right.
but not as a writer.
Right. Yeah. Do you admire him as a writer?
I think he writes very well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think that probably the best book he's written is Harpoon at the Venture,
Yeah.
because you see, it's the only book that he wrote about a subject where he hadn't gone there meaning to write a book.
Right. That's a very good point. Yeah.
And this is something which you can argue it both ways.
Right.
I mean, you can say that you go off unprepared to write a book, but I think that you have a different approach to the whole thing when you get back. And then that's been my experience.
Yeah.
I've never done a journey anywhere
No.
with an intention of writing a book.
Right. Right.
I mean, I didn't write the Marsh book till some time after I'd been there, or certainly Arabian Sands.
Right. Yes, that was it Graham Watson who
Yes, he came here, and that's through Gavin. Gavin said, you must show Graham some of your photographs and get them published.
Gavin Young or?
Gavin Maxwell.
Gavin Maxwell.
Who at that time was sort of, I think Graham Watson was his agent.
Right.
And he came and I took him next door, where not so many as are now, but there were a lot of photographs in there.
Right.
And he browsed through them, and then he said, it's idiotic of you not to write a book. And I mean, I'd never contemplated writing a book.
No.
And I said, you know, for one thing, I'd never tried to write anything. And I'm quite certain I couldn't write a book. And I don't want to waste the time sort of in this country or somewhere else struggling to write a book when I could be doing something else.
Right.
Anyway, all I can tell you is I never intend to.
Right.
He went off, came back next day. It was Mark Long. It was in here, and then I'd been sitting there. My mother was sitting over there, and she was sort of in support of this. Oh, Wilfred, you must, like sort of minute gun firing in their support.
Right.
And finally, I said, well, if you don't give me any sort of fixed date to do it, I'll see what I can do. And I went off to Denmark and broke the back of it down.
You wrote it in Denmark?
I spent 4 months in Denmark in the winter.
Yeah.
Where I didn't know anybody. This was all deliberate.
Right.
And then I thought I shan't want to, in the winter in Denmark, there won't be much charm walking about.
No.
And I took a bed sitting room there in a hotel. Just to do a quick walk around the park.
Whereabouts was it in?
Park Hotel, by some, let's call it, there's a park there.
Sorry, the name of the town is?
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
And then in the Park Hotel. And I didn't go anywhere.
No.
I just worked on this book.
Uh-huh.
And I took with me, I had got diaries because for the Arabian Sands book, each time I got back, I had been asked to read a paper to the RGS.
Right.
And so that I kept enough notes on that sort of thing. And also I'd been mapping the area, therefore, with a time compass traverse. It was left at 3 and you know,
right.
and a bearing of this, and then you kept checking your bearing and
right.
Time and compass.
Yeah.
And there we were, and then also I made a note of the, so in the book things like the coloration of the sands and everything, I was prepared to swear that they're accurate, because I say the dunes here would be of a certain colour, and
right.
the dunes would change and so on. But there's a lack of sort of, there's a certain amount about in the diaries, 2 of which are now missing. They were stolen when the house was broken into.
This house?
Yeah.
The diaries were stolen?
Well, I can't find them anyway.
Can't.
So the others were there. But in any case, the sort of personal things which one would keep. I've never been a diary writer.
No, I was going to...
And I mean, in Kenya, all I keep is that each day. It's just where I am and an odd note or two. And therefore, the sort of record of conversations and things, unless they were particularly interesting or something, then I wrote it on the opposite page in these
right.
notebooks.
Right.
But so that I could do that. But the thing I found most stimulating was that I took most of my photographs along.
Yeah.
And looking at them, they did bring back sort of what they were wearing, what they looked.
Right.
All that.
Yeah.
And when it, in a sense, I was glad I did it, because those are the most important years I've had.
In your life?
Yes, and they brought, doing it like this, brought them back.
Right.
Even 10 years later, the whole thing came back very vividly to life.
Right, right.
And then, I mean, what I decided when I went there was, you know, if I sit down and then say, oh, I can't work today, and get up and read an Agatha Christie, I shall never get anything done.
Right. So
from 8 in the morning till 1 o'clock, I'd sit firmly at my desk and refuse to get up.
Right.
And
how much would you write in a day?
How many?
How many
It
words?
varied enormously. I'm a very slow writer.
Right.
And I write in pen, in ink. And then when a page gets sort of messed up, I tear it up and throw it down. So page after, I suppose I've written every word about 10 times. No,
Right.
that's probably an exaggeration. But
Right.
I think certainly it's 5 or 6.
Do you feel writing doesn't come easily to you then?
Well, to the sense that if I am writing, I want it to be right when I'm writing it. And I fiddle about with a sentence several times until I think, well, I pass there.
Yeah, very sort of slow and...
Yes, and the thing I can't do is do a sort of synopsis of what I'm going to put in a chapter in the book.
No.
And it builds itself up as I go along.
Right. So you don't actually plan your chapters?
No.
Not at all?
Well, I mean in the sense that I think, this will be describing that first journey and this and that. But I mean, what's going to go into the next paragraph, I don't know until it's been written.
Gosh.
Yes, with all this, I mean, if one was a professional writer, you wouldn't do this.
Right. Was Maxwell, was it very obvious that Maxwell was preparing all the time for a book, or was he...
No, I mean, I think he kept a diary. In fact, I know he did.
Yeah.
But, no, the one who was far more kept that was Gavin Young.
Gavin Young.
Because when I went, and I spent, I can't remember, 6 or 7 months, say it must have been about 6 months. He chartered the ketch, and we started from Bali, and we went all around the Kalimantan, Celebes, around to Sarawak, Brunei, and
you did?
Yes, with him.
Gosh, I never knew.
No, because I haven't mentioned it.
No, not at all.
And I think he's writing a book now. And he did it because it was to be in the footsteps of Conrad.
Right.
Who is his sort of hero, and he wants to write a good book on Conrad. And we went there to see where he thought Lord Jim would have been based on which particular...
Was that recently?
Oh, no. I never remember anything unless I jot that sort of thing down. Somewhere here, this is a sort of... Yes, here we are. 77.
77?
Yes. Then July the 17th, Singapore. And December that year, July, August, September, October, November, December, yes, we sailed to Singapore.
Right. You sailed there, did you?
We sailed all round there.
But did you
but
sail
Gavin wasn't with me then.
No.
Singapore, Delhi. So that was January, so it was July to January, the sort of boat trip.
Right.
He wasn't with me that last bit because we both got a bit tired of the man who owned the boat.
Right.
And anyway, he wanted to get off and start writing. But I led on to all this because I say in this, and I think it's in a sense, it's noticeable in his sort of Slow Boat to China and the other. He kept absolutely copious notes. I mean, he'd be sitting there and just writing as we left the port.
Right.
And
he's writing that now, isn't he? On Conrad.
Yes, he is.
Yes, because I wrote to him and he was in the Far East.
Yes.
And he mentioned that he was doing a book on
Conrad. Well, that's what he did. Well, it will be based to some extent
on these journeys.
Yes, and I mean he's been in the Congo, so he can cover the Heart of Darkness quite easily. He's got the same sort of feeling about the Congo, but I think it comes out in Heart of Darkness.
Right. Have you read Heart of Darkness?
Oh, it's my favourite Conrad.
Is it? It's superb.
I think it's the best, it's the most smashing hitting book that he
Yes.
wrote.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps I like Old Jim the best, but
Right.
Heart of Darkness is
Yeah. Oh, I love Heart of
a
Darkness.
great book.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I say that he was more noticeably making notes, and though he wasn't sort of deliberately, he was collecting information on the occasion for a book.
Right.
I mean, we didn't do the actual journey with a view to him writing about it. He incorporated it into a later book.
Yeah.
But I think, you see, his Slow Boat to China and his Slow Boat Home were definitely done with a view to writing about him.
Right.
And therefore I think possibly
Not as strong.
you might feel that the books had too much detail in a way.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Do you think he's a? I don't think he's a writer of your calibre.
I don't think he's got the descriptive powers
Of yourself
Maxwell.
or Maxwell? No, no, he doesn't.
But I mean, he was such an outstanding journalist.
Yes, yeah. That's perhaps where his note-taking comes from to some extent.
Yes, well, I suspect so.
Yes, I recently read The Return to the Marshes, and it's not as strong either as your book was, or Gavin Maxwell's even, although his deep sympathy comes across.
Yes, that's what I like about it. It was a sort of feeling of affection.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Oh, yes. I was interested that you don't seem to write here. This is a lovely.
No, because at that time, you see, and this doesn't apply now, as I was spending all my time abroad, there seemed little point in sort of spending the extra months here,
Right.
and then having to pay taxes.
Right.
And so, I mean, you had to be out of the country within 3 months. And then 4 or 5 years ago, I said, oh, to hell with this.
Right.
I mean, I don't want to feel I've got to leave England
No.
by the 15th or something.
Right.
And so anyway, my people, the man with stockbroker and people bought me an India tent, which makes it more or less
Right.
like it was before.
Right. So.
I wrote the first part of the first part of that in Copenhagen. Then I went to my mother's Irish, and I went to her old home in Ireland, in Carlow. Not actually her house, which her cousins were living in, but a neighbouring house, where an aunt of mine was.
Right.
And this was rather disastrous because coming from the stimulating Denmark to Ireland, I sat down in the she took a lot of trouble, laid everything on. My husband's office was sort of study was to be mine while I was down. I was only there 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And then I sat down that morning to sort of pick up my pen and woke up when the dinner gong went. So after about 2 false starts like this, I was in despair because I thought this is no use to me, and I'd have to tell this dear old lady that I simply can't work here. In fact, after a few days it settled down and I was all right. And then it was a very much more relaxed atmosphere. You know, people to talk to at lunch. And then if I felt I'd done enough work for the day, I could go off and fish and try to catch a trout.
So you'd only work in the morning?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I might work through it simply depend how I felt.
Right.
But you see, in Denmark I had nothing else to do, and therefore, and once you got yourself really going, you probably did work on till supper time.
Right.
And then at night I found that you simply had to have paper and pencil beside you, so, because all the time, or if I did a walk round I forget what it's called, that pleasure garden place of theirs, the ideas would come into my head and I should have to pull out a notebook. Paper. It might only be an adjective.
Right.
The one you've been looking for.
Right. And even when you're in bed, did that occur?
Oh yes, and then in that case the light flicked on and off the whole time. Whereas it didn't, with this last book I wrote, it never did that.
No, no.
But I mean, that took me about 4 years to write.
Your autobiography?
Yes.
Yeah.
Much more involved book and difficult to fit in, to integrate the history in that, which I felt was important.
Yes, yes. There's a great deal of historical material.
Yes, there is. And then the thing was to try and get it so that if somebody met it, they wouldn't just throw the book down.
Right. I mean, I've read it and I very much enjoyed it.
Well, it's gone down well.
Yes,
And,
yeah.
I've had 3 rather satisfactory. One, I was getting into a taxi at the Travellers, and the driver said to me as I got in, "Are you Wilfred Thesiger?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I read your books." So I said, we chatted coming here. And had he read the last one? And he said, no, he's going to get it. So when we got here, I should come up to the flat, and I brought him up here and gave him a signed copy of the paperback. Signed copy of it with a sort of date and his name and his best wishes, all that sort of thing.
Right, that's good.
Then the next day I went to buy a fridge at, I hardly know what they call themselves, Peter Jones. And the man who when he saw my name, I sort of signing things, said, "So I've read your books, you see." So well, then my final thing today was when I was sending a telegram to Kenya, to Laputa. And I said, "From Wilfred, Wilfred Thesiger." The man said, "Oh, well, are you the Arabist? Because I read your books." So this showed us early. Yes. I think it has.
Right.
I think perhaps the satisfactory thing about it is that it sort of has a certain impact on people of all sorts of. I mean, from the sort of granny down to the children,
right.
From the sort of 15, 16-year-olds to the.
Yeah, a wide audience.
Yes, a wide audience.
Yeah, yeah.
Which pleases me a lot.
Yeah. Which has been the best seller of your book?
Oh, this one, I think.
Has it?
Yes.
Oh, really?
But the thing is that Arabian Sands, which was published 30 years ago, almost to the day, is still in sale.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's had a certain, it's now in a new paperback, and
yes.
And so is the Marsh Average.
Yeah, and also a new hardback, Collins brought out.
Yes, Collins brought out.
Yeah.
But the new, the one which sort of died a natural death was Desert Martian Mountain.
Oh, I thought that was a wonderful book.
Yes, well, I didn't mind that so much because when I produced the
Visions of a Nomad.
Visions of a Nomad, I mean, I thought that would take its place.
Right.
As it was largely a photograph book.
Yeah. Oh, that was absolutely wonderful, wasn't it?
Yes, I can make no claims. I never make any claims to be. I mean, the last thing, somebody said, "Oh, what are you?" I mean, it never occurred to me to say I'm a writer.
Right.
It never occurred to me to say I'm a photographer because.
What do you say?
I say, well, I want to about. But I don't. I don't feel that. I'd never put author on my passport.
Don't you? No, no. What do you put?
Naturalist, on the strength of having spent rather sort of locusts for a brief. And that's harmless if you go to Kenya and you call yourself a naturalist.
Right.
There's not going to be an instant pricking up of the earth.
No.
They would say author. I wonder if he's going to come here to write about Kenya.
Right.
So that suits.
Right. Naturalist. I like that.
But,
yes, I was going to say, that in the introduction to Arabian Sands, you say how scanty your diaries were, and yet perhaps because you didn't take diaries, you had a very good memory.
Well, I said that this had both, the fact that I hadn't sort of kept full diaries, it both helped and hindered. Was, I think, my expression.
Yeah.
And by that I meant I wasn't cluttered up with a whole lot of what I think possibly Gavin suffers from, too much sort of stuff there, and therefore you could take a rather wider view of it.
Yes, yeah, and also
that is, of course, I mean, Arabian Sands is my favourite book. There's no doubt about that because it was the most important.
Right, right. It's interesting that I spoke to an editor at The Guardian yesterday, and we both agreed that we preferred the Marsh Arabs.
I know. You see, this I quite agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, I found that the marsh Arabs is because it's easier to sort of it's easier people who've never seen either to get interested in. There's more detail, more individuals, more sort of animals and scenery and everything.
Right. I don't know why. I like them both, but I went through the Marsh Arabs very quickly, read it very quickly, and I found it. I don't know, for some reason I enjoyed both.
Yeah, no, that leaves.
Right.
But the difficulty, of course, with the Arabian sands was to convey the vastness and emptiness of the country without just reducing sheer boredom in your reader.
Right. Do you feel that having been to such a landscape that somehow it's difficult to imagine you in a bowler hat and with the furled brolly? And that's an image that Maxwell creates of you.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, when I came here, he made this sort of comment. I said, "Good God, Gavin, what do you expect me to walk about going to the Travellers' Club in a loincloth? My object was always to be as inconspicuous as one can be. And I mean, if I'm going into the Travellers' Club, I'll dress like the other people do.
Yeah.
That's where I've just been for lunch. So that's why I'm in it now.
Right.
Otherwise, I'd be dressed probably like you are.
Right.
But
do you feel any sort of a sense of? You said in the end of Arabian Sands that you knew what it was like to be an exile.
Yes.
Do you feel like an exile from this country?
No, never.
Never?
No. And the other point which might be of interest is that however hard, and I mean you probably gathered it from the book, the Arabian journeys were desperately hard.
Oh, incredibly hard.
I mean, however hard, and I mean, even if we hadn't eaten for 2 days, and if we were rationed down to 1 glass of water a day, and the temperatures were getting on to 90 and everything. When I mentioned this to there was a symposium on desert travel, he said you must drink 2 gallons of water a day.
Right.
Sort of, because it's like putting petrol into a car. And I did get up at the end and said I found this interesting, but I'd had no chance of doing this. And then he said, well, it'd be interesting to look at your kidneys.
Right.
But it was, all that was very hard.
Right.
And it's austere landscape.
Yeah.
But however, when we were starting, I never felt to myself I'd give anything to be in the Dorchester eating or whatever you do eat in the Dorchester.
No.
Or, and I never thought I'd give anything to be sort of in spring and in a wood in England. It's meaningless to me.
You never thought that?
No, never. It's all completely meaningless, pointless. It has no sort of... We were down yesterday or the day before down by Oxford. It is attractive, but it has no sort of grip on.
No.
And when I was here, I thought, my God, I may not get back to the empty quarter. When I didn't know whether you were off would play ball with me. A sort of aching longing to get back there.
Right.
But of course, in a sense, it wasn't only and this I think is one of the most important things. I don't know where I'm going talking.
Yes, go on.
But one of the most important things was it was the people.
Right.
It's the people in their setting.
Right.
And the Bedu had for me, they're the only society I lived with which had a quality of nobility, a high standard of nobility.
Everybody?
Almost everybody, yes. I can think of nobody who hadn't.
Right.
And this was due to 2 things. One was the desire on the part of all of them to excel, so that they'd be spoken of. And even Nourish, I know who was Auda, I think it was, who tied up a goat when he heard a wolf howling. It had nobody call on him in vain for dinner. Well, I mean, that's absurd, but I mean, it could reach that state of absurdity.
Yeah.
This desire to get it.
Right.
And you've got this desire to excel. You've got the fact that the life itself was frightfully hard.
Right.
And if you didn't, I mean, it could all lead to sort of fighting and things if you were going to squabble over the food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, the fact that everything, as soon as you met people, what is the news? And then, the first exchange was rather like the responses in church. The news was good, even if one of them had just been killed.
Right.
And then you sat down after that. And after I did that first crossing of the empty quarter and came back and rejoined them, I could have told them all about it in an evening.
Right.
It took them 4 days. They were still talking about it. I mean, every little detail was known and talked and discussed, you see, though we'd been sort of 400 miles away or something.
Right.
And consequently, if a man, and they were nomadic, and if somebody had been down on the borders of the Yemen and then done something which they regarded as shameful, later, it might be 2 years later or so, but it would be known throughout the tribe.
Right.
And then you would get this thing, God blacken the face of so-and-so.
Right.
Somebody had shown cowardice, or
Yeah.
even some wretched boy flinched when he was being circumcised. It was very difficult for him to live it down.
Yeah. Is that, I mean, both those qualities that they sought to excel, and this, what's the news? This is an oral tradition, an oral society, isn't it?
And when I wrote this, somebody's just written a book on Arab poetry in the Nedj from the Hijaz, in the Nedj from Sinai.
Right.
And he asked me to do an introduction. And I said there that Elbis, the cat, who was killed in that rather magnificent or rearguard action of his, and I met his killer a bit later. But here was a man who'd done this, and then what do? I get 400 miles away later, when I'm up in Abu Dhabi, there they've turned it into poetry which is being sung there.
Right, right.
So you're becoming more immortal in a way like that.
Right, right.
No, they, as I say, it was a combination of and I like hardship. I mean, the sort of austerity and hardship and the cleanness of the sands.
Right.
And above all, the thing I hate in this country is noise.
Right.
Hate these bloody aeroplanes, motor bicycles, all the rest of it.
Right.
But there you see, you were and even in the marshes, you were in a world that had never heard an engine.
No, no. You're I think you perhaps have a very acute ear. If I think about your writing, you often describe sounds.
Yes.
Sounds of voices in the marshes and things like that.
You can always, if you're in the desert there by yourself, you can almost hear a bit of sand fall on another.
Yes, yeah.
But all this has a fascination. And again, you see, what I am above all is a traditionalist. And I mean, any intrusion, and I can remember this right back almost to my childhood, any intrusion of something alien in the way of dress or anything offends me at once.
You didn't like it?
No. And I remember when I was going to Haile Selassie's coronation, and it was in the papers. Haile Selassie had been over here, at that time he was Ras Tafari, and he'd seen the guards in the bearskins. So he decided to have lions, you can't have lion bearskins.
Right, right.
You can't have lion bearskins, but the same type of thing.
Yeah.
And I remember being shocked at the time, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to go and copy us and do that sort of thing.
Right.
I wanted them just as they were.
Right.
And consequently, all the time I was in the Sudan in a way. I was never the least enthusiastic for change. I mean, it's one's job there to keep law and order and justice and so on. But both I and Guy Moore, and indeed the people in we had grave doubts about education, because we felt, they were perfectly content without it. It would come. I mean, I'm not denying it.
No.
And I mean, now that I live in Kenya, have I talked to you about Lawi?
You told me something of Lawi,
Yes, well, I have this little boy, destitute little boy, and I found him sitting in my car. And he was destitute. And then he'd been with me. He said, I'm staying with you. He's been with me for 20 years.
Right.
Then he's come to this country and he'd adapted himself so that when he was in the Travellers' Club, somebody said to him his education had ended, village education, when he was 10 years old.
Right.
You can imagine the rudimentary. But when he was in the Travellers' Club, somebody said to him, in all seriousness, Lowy, you were obviously educated in this country, but do tell me which school you were at. I mean, he'd copy, you know, he was able to copy him. Like, so.
Doesn't he call you Stone Age man?
Yes, he does, yes.
And
but
also
you see, if Lowy, and there you see, it's this, the thing that I'm prepared to move with the times.
Right.
There's people who won't recognise. Because you see, if Lowy was still walking about in a shuka and with ochre on his head, there's no future to it.
No.
So, I mean, Lowy is now mayor of Marilla. He's every possibility that he'll become a minister in Parliament and so on. Might go on to become a cabinet minister.
Right.
And the future lies that way now, and therefore he's got to move with it.
Right.
But, you know, I was always sorry to see the sort of change.
Right, right. I wanted to ask you, I don't know whether this tape is...
Has it stopped working?
No, it's still going. Oh, it's more or less finished.
Another
Yeah.
faceless words of mine will be lost.
I think it's...
No, you'll have to make them up. You'll get them all wrong.
Well, that's it. That's why I wanted to record it. I'll stop.